I kind of go with Mario. I like comedy more than kind of the sadness. And so I just kind of like to start with a joke or a funny story, ease it up a little bit. So first of all, I'm Mike Beatty. I was Army infantry. I spent 2 years in Germany. I spent 1 year in Iraq. I was in the town of Samara. After that, I went to Pendleton, Oregon, not Camp Pendleton, and that's where I found my future wife. I was a recruiter. You want to talk about a contrast to life, going from Iraq to being a recruiter. Pretty different. And so here's a story from Iraq that I always thought was really funny. So when we were there, we had to burn our own poop. There's just no other way around it. So we had these outhouses built out of like plywood, and we cut barrels in half and we slid them underneath, and they would get full, and there was no dump. There was no waste facility. So what did you have to do? You went and took Mo gas, and if you guys don't know what Mo gas is, it's like diesel and gasoline and I don't know, eye of newt and whatever else they put in that stuff. And you dump it in there, and then you burn it. And you burn it till it gets down, and then you're gonna use it again, and you have to sit there and stir it with a giant metal rod, right? Kind of like a witch's cauldron, right? And so I remember like one time I was sitting there, I was in line to use one of these fine facilities, and I'm in line, and there's this guy in front of me, and there's this dude over there, he's burning it, and it's popping and it's crackling, and he looks over at us, and he goes, "Hey, kind of sounds like a steak hitting a grill, doesn't it?" And the guy in front of me, and it's not over, the guy in front of me, he looks over at him, he goes, "No, it doesn't." And I love it, because this guy looks back at him, and he goes, "Don't lie to yourself, dude. It sounds exactly like a steak hitting the grill. And when you go back home, and you throw that steak on a grill, you'll come right back to this moment." And I was sitting there, I was like, that's crazy. And I kid you not, like the next time I was home, I threw a steak on a grill, I was like, oh yeah, it does sound like that. So look, I like to joke, because I think that's what we need, okay? You get, when I got back, right, I was different than Mario. 2 weeks from getting out, I was in college. I made a point of it. I enrolled early, I was in. Wasn't waiting around. I had to get life done, you know? And it's weird, because I rushed through all of it. You know, I went to classes. I went to a computer science class. I went there every day. I sat through that thing. I had no idea what they were talking about. But it was that discipline. Like, I showed up every day, and I sat there while he spoke Greek. And I was like, oh, God. And I was like, but I got to be here. That's what you do. You show up on time, you do your job, and you move on. And it's a question about, and something hit me, and it hit me a while later. I was actually flying on a plane, and I was watching The Hurt Locker. And I started like kind of crying on the plane, and I didn't want anybody to know about it. And because it kind of took me back. And it was a scene in there where he was talking about, like, if he would have pulled the trigger, his buddy would have been alive. If he didn't pull the trigger, now his buddy's dead. And the thing that you're taught in the Army, in the infantry, is you have to be perfect. And the reason you have to be perfect, okay, is because perfection is the only way for life, right? Any imperfection could mean death. Worse than your death, it could mean the death of your brother. And who wants to live with that? Any little imperfection, you know? And it's crazy, because I was telling my buddy, we were watching Band of Brothers, and I was talking about, like, it's weird. You have to shave, like, every day. You don't get a choice. You have to shave every day. And he's like, yeah, but shaving's not that hard, Mike. And I was like, you don't get it, dude. And we're watching this scene in Band of Brothers, and there's a guy busting a chunk of ice loose because they're in the Battle of the Bulge, and he's getting water, and he's trying to, like, straight razor shave. And it's like, oh, it just sounded horrible. And I was like, you don't get it. Like, you have to do everything perfect all the time, because you don't want that guilt. Nobody wants that guilt. All right, nobody wants to come back being like, the reason Sanders, Esparza, Converse, Hitchin died, Thrasher died. Nobody wants that. So perfection is the only way. And the problem is we come back and we use that perfection in everything we do. And we drive everybody away from us. We drive our wives away, our children away. I mean, my kids are back there and I'm trying to do everything I can to get them to be perfect and just sit still, right? I want them to be perfect because it's ingrained in me. It's like this DNA, it's a change. Like I can't change it anymore. And the problem is civilian world doesn't work on perfection. Companies give you just so much workload and they're just like, I don't know. And so I have my mission mentality, so I'm working 80, 100 hours a week trying to get everything done while other people just bail out. And that doesn't happen all the time. I've seen a lot of civilians have great work ethic. I'm not trying to beat up on them, but it's weird because I have to do it. I have to be perfect, right? Because if I don't, who knows what the consequence is? And so we push everybody to be perfect. And what happens when you push people to be perfect? They don't want to be around you. Nobody wants to deal with that. And it's led in a lot of ways for veterans to be very isolated, you know? And you'll go to like other veteran events, and I've always found, man, it turns into like a giant pissing competition of like who saw more and did what. Who cares, right? And it's sad because we push each other away on which one of us is better, which one of us did more. And I think it's the only thing that can really heal us. We don't need more money, right? We don't, and nothing against the VA. I'm not speaking ill of the VA or anything else or all these programs. I love everybody for veterans. But the thing is we don't, like when I went to UW and I started there, there was no veteran group, or technically there was a veteran group. And there was like 5 members. One of them was a Marine and 4 of them were like his buddies in his frat. And he created this group because you needed 5 people to start the club. So he just was like, hey, I want to start this club, sign on for me, even though they weren't veterans. And I went in a different approach. Like I took a flyer and I put it up on a wall and I said like, I just went all over the campus and put these up with a buddy of mine and I just said like, hey, come hang out with us or something, right? And so I did this and like one guy showed up and he was kind of like, and we're like, maybe it ain't gonna work, right? And he goes, nah, don't give up, dude. It's just kind of how college is. He's like, I've been in a group and it's been going for like 30 years. There's like 7 of us, man. And then so I had a little brainstorm with my buddy Rob, who helped me create this group. And I just put on there like, hey, we're going to go on a bar hopping afterwards. Man, had a bunch more people there all of a sudden, you know? And so while I was there and I did this, and this group grew very, very rapidly. And originally I thought like, maybe we can like petition for more veterans' rights or I don't know, some other stupid political stuff, right? And it kind of hit me after a while. Everybody who's coming to this group, it ain't because we're going to go, I don't know, protest, right? Or be like, we deserve more. People came to that group because they felt like they were home. My buddy Jesse and his wife Jacqueline, they both were in the Navy, and they came and he told me, he goes, hey man, like, he goes, my wife just told me that for the first time in like years, like the reason she had such good times because she felt safe, you know? And because there is this weird part of us, like we protect one another. We look out for one another. You know, we joke differently. I love like military and the humor in the military is so warped, and it's crazy because like, I was thinking about what he said, and it's like when I get around like my other buddies and we start going down our joking path, like yes, if you guys heard it, you guys would not want me on this stage. And it was like, because it's true, we have like this kind of warped sense of humor, but it's just kind of how we are, you know, and I guess in all honesty, like the reason we're warped is because we went through things that warped us. And you know, I came back and I talked about war. I talked about it like it was so normal, you know? Like I talked to this girl and I thought she was cute and I was like, oh man. And she was like, oh, and I was still in the Army this time. She was like, oh, like, hey, like tell me about like Iraq, tell me about the war. I was like, oh yeah, you know? And I didn't talk about like trying to be drama or anything. I was just like, oh yeah. I mean, like we'd go on daily missions. We'd come under small arms fire. We'd hit IEDs. She'd be like, what's an IED? I'm like, oh, it's like a roadside bomb. We get hit with VBIDs. And she's like, what's a VBID? I was like, it's a car bomb, you know, and RPGs and whatever. I mean, whatever just hit us, whatever hit us that day. That was it. And we went on to, I don't know, I thought about it, I went on to college. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he said it to me one day. He goes, Mike, you talk about this stuff like it's normal. Like everybody knows what you're talking about. And it's like, oh, okay, so it took me 15 years later to actually realize that what happened to us isn't normal, But we don't want to talk about it because it goes back to perfection and it goes back to a weakness. Army infantry doesn't show weakness. We're not allowed to. Because what does weakness mean? It's the exact same thing as imperfection. When you're weak, it means death. If you can't do that push-up, how are you going to pick me up and carry me off the battlefield? You're going to sick call because you have the sniffles? How are you going to carry me off the battlefield? How are you going to do that? You're not allowed to show weakness. And when you get out and you come back, you're not allowed to show weakness. You're not allowed to ask for help. And it gets ingrained in you. And you push people away because you're trying to be perfect and you don't want to admit this stuff. And then you're alone and you're just dwelling. You're ruminating on that weakness. And it's tough. I feel for every brother out there, every sister out there too. I don't know how to help them. The only thing I can come to is I want to see veterans start going to more events. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be to push for change. I just want to see people start going to the VFW again. Don't get me wrong, any of you guys go to the VFW, it's lame. I'm not trying to beat up on World War II vets. I love them. I know the Vietnam vets don't really go there too much. I'm not trying to beat up on them. It's just, I don't know. We need something to bring us together. Give us a place where we can feel safe. That camaraderie is what's going to help heal people. I still talk to a bunch of my Army buddies periodically. I want to know what's going on in their lives. And I want them to know that they can call me in desperation because I've had them do that. I had a buddy call me and he said, dude, I want you to tell my son that I was a good man. And he was going to kill himself. And I said, I'm not going to do it, man. I said, I won't tell your son. I'll tell him the exact opposite. You pull that trigger. I was like, I will tell your son you're the biggest piece of garbage I know. And I said, I'll go to your funeral and I'll push your casket over. And I said, you are not doing this. You're not putting that on me. And he didn't do it. It's a strange thing. All he wanted his kid to know is that he was perfect. And when I told him I wouldn't allow him to do that, it stopped him, And it is hard to talk about this stuff and explain it. I was talking to my son today. There's this song called Burn the Ships. I don't know if you guys have heard it, right? And I was trying to explain to him, what burning the ships means. Because it's strictly a war reference as far as I know, right? And if you guys don't know what burning the ships means, when you storm a beachhead, you actually have two options. You don't think about it. You can take the beach, or you can get back on your boat, and you can leave. So the thing is captains used to burn the ships, and it would force the soldiers to only go one direction, through the enemy. And my son asked me, did we ever take a beach, Dad? I said, yeah, we've taken a lot of beaches. The largest military event in history was called D-Day. And I told him about my division. I was part of the Big Red One. I said, my division was there, and it made me, honestly, I teared up. And then trying to explain to him, when you hit a beach, I was like, what is a beach, John? What's it full of sand? And I said, have you ever tried to run in sand? And where does the beach go? It always goes uphill. So you're running up sand, uphill, against somebody trying to kill you. And I talked to him about the Nazis, and then he asked me about what Nazis are, and oh man, how do you explain that? And then Finn was asking me, my other son, because I hang out with a good buddy of mine named Gavril, who was a Marine who lost his leg. And he asked me, well, how did Gavril lose his leg? How do you explain that to kids? How do you explain this massive violence that we've gone through? How do we normalize it and make it okay so that we can talk about it and it's not weakness? That way we feel like we can get some of this stuff off our chest. And one thing I want to say too is like, I loved seeing some of the Vietnam veterans up here. Thank you for coming. You know, like, I struggled a lot when I got out as far as like going like, shit, I don't know what's going to happen to me. Because every Vietnam vet I saw, like honestly just seemed crazy. And I was like, shh, there goes, that's me, I guess, in a while. You know, and then I met a few that weren't. And I actually think that can be like, you know, there's this stereotype out there that we're just these crazy, like rabid dogs. You know, and to have like normal veterans who saw combat, who dealt with it, who prayed because they thought their life was going to end, to show up and be like, look, I'm normal and life was horrible and it was hard, but there is hope. Like, let me give you some hope. Let me show you. And then coach us. You know, some of us come to us and say, hey, look, man, I'm like, having a wife is so hard. You know, like it's tough. Like, let me tell you the things we did. Let me tell you that it's okay to go to counseling. You know, tell me about your problems. It's okay. Because we need that. You know, we need our fathers, our grandfathers. We need them coming to us and telling us, like, it's okay. You can get through this. And it's okay to be weak now. You're not on the line anymore. You know? I don't know. I lost my notes, so that's about all I can really think of for right now. You know, I do appreciate you putting this on. I think it's pretty amazing. And I hope that any of the veterans here, I really hope you try to go to some events. And I'm going to try to take my own advice on that, to be honest. Like, I went to one the other day through Axis. It was a blast. You know, but I'm going to try to go to the VFW again. I want to try to get that going again. And I hope you guys go too. And just because you go once and nobody's there, right? And I'm not, or like 3 people were there and it's like boring as all crap, don't give up on it. Remember my group? Maybe you can like add a beer run on it or something and people will start showing up. I don't know, but like keep going to them, you know? Let's find our community again. Let's build it again. So that way, honestly, so when we do it, the Vietnam vets tried to do it for us, but they had their issues. But let's do it for the next war, right? Because it ain't over, you know? I hate to say that, man. There's one every generation. So let's be there. Let's start building it now so that when our kids come to us, we can talk to them, that we can help them. All right. Well, thanks for listening. I appreciate that.